Well, good morning, everybody. Glad to see you back. A lot has happened over the last week. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Make sure we got enough time in this discussion. Let's start in James 1. We're going to be reading from verses 2 through. Well, let's see. Let's see where we end up at. And I'm going to be in the amplified version because I wanted to bring out some key things in it to get to what I'm trying to communicate on this day. It's very important that it's clear on what I'm communicating. So once you leave the discussion, you can repeat back what was attempted to be communicated. And communication is the topic of the discussion today, coincidentally. Consider it nothing but joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you fall into various trials. Be assured that the testing of your faith through experience produces endurance, leading to spiritual maturity and inner peace. Verse 4, and let endurance have its perfect result, and do a thorough work, so that you may be perfect and completely developed in your faith, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom to guide them through a decision or circumstance, he is to ask of our benevolent God, who gives to everyone generously and without rebuke or blame. It will be given to him or her. But he must ask for this wisdom and faith without doubting God's willingness to help. Without doubting God's willingness to help. For the one who doubts is like a billowing surge of the sea that is blown about and tossed by the wind. For such a person ought not think or expect. Such a person ought not think or expect that he will receive anything at all from the Lord. Being a double-minded man, unstable and restless in all his ways, in everything he thinks, feels, or decides. We're going to stop right there. And that's the topic of my discussion today on double-minded. And, when I think about being double-minded, double-minded is, I liken it to schizophrenia. Meaning, what do you mean by that? I'm meaning that, let's go back a second. We communicate in word, gesture, and deed. We've been taught this before, but I want to bring this up in my conversation because, to not be double-minded, we need to communicate effectively in word, gesture, and in deed. Double-minded is likened to saying one thing, but doing another. Thinking one thing and acting out something different. Declaring one thing and doing something totally different. You just heard me mention we communicate in word, we communicate in gesture, and we communicate in deed. Word being with the words that come out of our mouth, what we declare, what we are stating. When we declare a vision or we set a goal or we give direction, we're giving direction verbally to communicate to the other one what is expected of them. Here, in the workplace, as a leader, in order for your group, your team members, your family, your leadership team to carry out the mission, you have to communicate to them what the expectations are. Meaning, they only know by what you have directed them to do. Okay? And we usually, in these settings, we do it by declaring what our intentions are. We're declaring what the goal is. We're declaring what is needed to obtain the task at hand. Hear me. Confusion is always a disruptor to the goal. You try to set the goal so clear that no one can say they didn't understand because you communicated. Now, I could say some things with my mouth and declare it, but my gestures could say something totally different. I've been guilty I've been guilty, being married for such a long time and becoming familiar um, with my wife, my children, my family, is that I can say one thing, but they know daddy's feeling something else. I had an instance not long ago where we were at an event, and uh, my children know me. They know me. You know, if you've been around me long enough, I might say this, but you could tell by my gestures and my body language, something's off. He's not feeling something. We were in a situation where I was being observant. I was discerning some things, and without me saying anything to them, they knew, okay, something's off. He's not feeling it. Now, I hadn't said anything, and I wasn't even overly being with my body language being loud to my thoughts, but without me saying anything, they knew. Oh yeah, we knew you weren't feeling it. I mean, what you mean? I mean, we can just tell because they asked me, "Dad, you good?" Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So my words that came out of my mouth said, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good." But my gestures and my body language said something totally different. Understand that they did not receive from my mouth and leave it alone. They already knew, okay, yeah, he said that, but there's something else. There's something that's not settled. I was communicating with my gestures. So even though I told them as the leader, everything is good, my gestures told them something different. And they went with my gestures versus what I said. As a leader, you have to be careful. In this case, they did the right thing by trusting what they knew in my gestures to say, okay, I don't know what it is right now, but we'll find out later on. But, and I end up having to tell them what my issue was. Okay. But that's because they knew me. And they knew, okay, in this case here, even though the direction came out of his mouth was one thing, we know better because we know him. We have been in relationship with him, and we know what he is. He's debating something in his spirit. So to close out this story, I end up telling them after the fact because at the time I didn't know how to discern or communicate with my mouth what was going on because I was still processing it. So they were viewing me as I was in the moment. And when they asked me, my response was, no, I was good. I'm good, because I didn't know how to formulate what I was sensing. And what I was sensing, I found out 2-3 days later why I was sensing that. And then I had to come back to them, tell them, okay, this is what was going on. At the time, I didn't know. I've been in situations where I've been in intense fellowships with family members, with my wife, and we say a lot of things. We say a lot of things out of our mouth, but our gestures, once again, tells the story. Hear me? What do you mean in this case? Well, in this case, my gestures may indicate that I'm still bothered, I'm angry, or say when I'm in business meetings or whatnot, I have to be very careful on my gestures, my body language, because typically when you close your arms, that's a sign that you're closed-minded, you're not really hearing it. I'm listening to you, but I'm not buying it. It shows them that I have a defense up. Sometimes when you get in an argument with your mate and one of you guys do this, you already know you're in for a fight because you're going to prove what you're saying because I'm protecting this is an indication that I'm making a stance and I'm protecting myself. But yet if I'm in a meeting or I'm engaging somebody and I sit on my edge of seat and I give them my attention, I keep my hands down, I'm open to hear what you have to say. I'm allowing myself to hear you. I'm allowing myself to hear you. We talked about schizophrenia in a minute. And I'm going to get back to the topic of discussion because we're talking about being double-minded. See, double-minded is communicating to someone that you're saying this or your body gesture is saying this, but your deed is something different. your deed. See, the deed is what you actually do. We got word, gestures, body language, whatever, and you have deed. Is your body language or your word matching your deed? The word says here, but he must ask for wisdom and faith without doubting God's willingness to help. For the one who doubts is like a billowing surge of the sea that is blown about and tossed by the wind. For such a person ought not think or even expect that he would receive anything at all from the Lord. Being a double-minded man, unstable and restless in all his ways, in everything he thinks, feels, or decides. We're talking about being double-minded and being in a state of don't even consider coming to me, because you need to not doubt. You need to be firm in what you believe, and your actions need to display that. Your actions, not just your words. See, because you can come to me and say, you can come to me and ask me for wisdom, and I will give it to you freely in abundance. But don't be double-minded. Don't doubt that I'm going to do it. See, because now I can't even use you. You know, being a double-minded man, you're unstable and restless in all your ways. Hear me. Restless and unstable. See, we talked about schizophrenia. I use schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is nothing but, in layman's terms, it's being in a state of confusion on your thoughts and your gestures and your words, saying one thing and doing another, believing one thing and having a false reality of what it actually is. You know, living in a fantasy world in your thoughts, saying one thing but thinking another, doing one thing and confusing those that are around you. Because like, wait a minute, hold on. See, now I can't. See, when you're double-minded, people see it. Because I'm always watching. You know, one of the things that my children was pointing out to me is that I don't tend to just take you for your word. I look for fruit. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. An orange tree does not produce apples. See, if you say you're one thing, I look for the fruit. Your fruit is going to tell me if what you're saying matches. So if you tell me one thing and do another, now it makes me look. I say, okay, I'm watching. You see, now I'm going to give you benefit of doubt, but I'm talking about patterns. I'm talking about patterns. See, do what you say you're going to do. If you can't do it, clarify. Because you don't want to be mistaken as a double-minded person. Hear me. Hear me. You know, it's all good. You know, we're human. We're human. We're all human. And we all are fighting what's real, what's reality, and what's fake in the tricks of the enemy. Hear me. I had a conversation not long ago with one of my nephews, and my conversation with him, it was, do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. And it was with intent, because I don't want his good to be mistaken as evil. I don't want him to grow up to be a double-minded person. I don't want him to put himself in a position where people don't trust his word. You have to your word is your bond. You have to do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, clarify, clean it up, fix it, communicate properly, that you don't come off as double-minded or with ill intent. See, once again, a double-minded man is, as the word puts, is unstable in all his ways. And see, first the natural and then the spirit. We know that. First the natural, then the spirit. See, if you tend to be double-minded in the natural, You're double-minded in here. You're questioning things on who you really are. And see, now I have to treat you with guards up because I don't know where you stand. See, I don't know if I just let a fox in the hen house. See, you can't be double-minded. See, and this is the thing. You have to know who you are. As an individual, you have to know who you are. As an adult, a mature individual, I know who I am and I know who I'm not. I know where my weaknesses is. So you have to handle yourself accordingly. Manage yourself accordingly. See, the old me is still there. It's laying dormant, waiting for the opportunity to get out. It's kind of like when in Job, when Satan came around and God asked him, "So, where you come from?" He said, "Oh, I'm just roaming here and there, seeing who I can devour." What he's saying was, I'm waiting here and there to see who I could infiltrate. What opportunities are there for me to do what I do, which is steal, kill, and destroy. I'm waiting on that opportunity. And most of the time, that opportunity comes at our will. And see, when you know that you have tendencies or weaknesses within you, you have to, when you're in your right mind, know that to govern what is laying dormant in you. Hear me? It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It's a matter of, are you controlling it? Do you have self-control? Hear me? See, you could be, double-minded is not having control of your faculties. I hope this is making sense. I hope this is not too deep. But this is something, no matter who you are, you're dealing with this. You're dealing with not being double-minded. You're dealing with not being unstable in all your ways. You're dealing with being wicked or not being wicked. Hear me. Hear me. Coincidentally, I got a comment posted on the channel here, and it came in the middle of the night. I don't know who this is or why it is, but it was the comments were interesting, and I could tell that the person was disturbed. And I guess they're disturbed with me. If it wasn't scam, I guess they're disturbed with me. But it was questioning who I am, and it was questioning, I guess in that mind, who I was in my past. Okay, everybody got a past. Hear me, hear me. When we know better, we do better. Just don't let your past continue to be your future. That's what the concern is. If you want to start pulling back the Wizard of Oz, you pull back the curtains to see what's back there. Oh, when you pull back the curtains, you're going to see a whole lot. We all can say that. We've all been in a position where we are not necessarily fond of what may have happened in our past. But if that's your past, and God has forgiven you for that, and He's thrown that in the sea of forgiveness, and you're not still doing it, what are you talking about? What's your issue? Hear me? But that's just another one. Your past is your past. You're going to have one. We all have one. But let your past stay in the past. Right your wrongs. And when you know better, you do better. Let it be what I used to do. Because I can't change. Yeah, yep, I did that. Oh yeah, I did that too. But am I still? Hear me? We're talking about being double-minded. We're talking about being double-minded. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Know who you are. Be who you're supposed to be. Because who you are may not necessarily be who you're supposed to be. Hear me. Who you are right now may not necessarily be who you're supposed to be. But you got to at least know who you are. Know who you are, but be who you're supposed to be. Hear me. Don't be double-minded. Don't be both. Don't be both. Accept it. When you know better, you do better, and know that you're fighting what's in you. Because the corrupt natures that we're all born with, it's that battle of good and evil, that the angel and the demon on your shoulder, and they both whispering in your ear. Who's gonna win? Don't be double-minded. Don't be unstable in all your ways. Amen. I hope that blessed you on this day. We'll talk.